give it a moment for everyone to come in from the waiting room. Good morning. This is a hearing before the Licensing Board for the City of Boston. Today is Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. As a reminder, unless you are being called to testify, please ensure that you are muted. Before we address some housekeeping issues, I will introduce Chairman Kathleen Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm Chair of the Licensing Board, and today I'm joined by Commissioner Liam Curran and Commissioner Kiana Saxon.
Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing will be recorded and will be posted to the City of Boston's website. The agenda items will be called in the order in which they appear on the agenda. When you are called, I will ask for the representatives on behalf of the licensee, the individuals from the Boston Police Department, and any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. Those individuals will be sworn in. After that time, the Boston Police Department will read the police notice into the record, and then the chair and the commissioners will have the opportunity to ask questions of the licensee. It is important to note that the legal standard in order to testify at today's hearing is personal knowledge of the alleged incident. The board will only be accepting testimony on each item from individuals with personal knowledge. Personal knowledge is not the knowledge that you have obtained from watching social media videos or any sort of news items. In order to testify at today's hearing, you must have personal knowledge from you as an individual of the alleged incident. With that, we will call the first agenda item. Calling PT Opco LLC, doing business as Pink Taco, located at 374 Congress Street. The date of the incident is March 22nd, 2020. Violation on condition of common victular license offering takeout of alcohol in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Are there any individuals present on behalf of the licensee?
Yes, Caroline O'Connell. I'm here on behalf of the licensee, and I have 4 other people from PT Opco with me. It looks like my camera is not working. I have Ned Algio, who is the CFO, Randy Sharp, who is the CEO, Mike Johnson, who is the Senior Vice President of Operations, and Sean Benesh, who is the Senior Manager of Real Estate and Compliance.
Thank you. Who from the Boston Police Department will be testifying?
I will be.
Detective Hernandez. And are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify today?
Detective William Gallagher, I might be testifying for any questions coming my way.
Thank you, Sergeant. If you could all please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
And Attorney O'Connell, I trust that all the individuals with you have raised their right hand and swear to tell the truth?
I believe they have. It's a little bit hard to tell. We're in different locations, so it's hard for me to tell what they've done, but I presume that they have.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, you can proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading a report which I authored. On Sunday, March 22nd, 2020, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD Licensed Premise Unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Pink Taco located at 374 Congress Street. While walking up to the establishment, detectives observed a portable chalkboard on the sidewalk advertising takeout margaritas. Detectives then walked inside and observed a table displaying beers and buckets and bottles of wine. The establishment's convictionless license restricts takeout alcohol. Upon reviewing the license and permits of the establishment, detectives observed that there were 13 widescreen televisions operating inside the establishment, while the entertainment license only authorized 4 widescreen televisions. The posted entertainment license had also expired December 31st, 2019. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Robert Maglione. Mr. Maglione was unable to provide detectives with the current license. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 023801 for violation of condition of convictionals license offering takeout liquor and premise operating 13 widescreen televisions, with only 4 widescreen televisions being authorized on the posted expired City of Boston entertainment license. Mr. Maglione signed for and accepted this notice. And also included were a few pictures of the actual chalkboard and the table with the alcohol on it.
Thank you. Attorney O'Connell?
Yes, I'd like to first address the entertainment license issue. I believe that the
Actually, this is not an entertainment hearing. This is just a hearing on the other parts of the incident report.
That was corrected. That was all I really had to say about that. And move on to the next portion. I believe what happened after talking to my client extensively is that the PT OPCO has a number of locations in a number of different states. And during the first week of COVID, when everybody closed down and started opening back up, there was some confusion as to which states were opening back up. They have locations in California, which were opening up. Massachusetts was not. This is not an excuse, obviously, for what happened, but I think part of the problem was there was a lot of confusion during that first initial week of COVID with the license closures and openings. What the licensee has done as a result of this incident is they have implemented a new policy that no local manager may take any action without checking with corporate compliance first to ensure that whatever they are doing is legal. If they have any questions, they're required to go through compliance to make sure that an incident like this would not happen again and a local manager would take action which was not authorized or not known by the compliance management team.
Attorney O'Connell, is the manager from Pink Taco here today?
No, he is not. We have we brought in our 4 senior managers.
Okay, we remember this a little differently at the licensing board. We spoke to your manager several times, and he is the one who told us that corporate told him to open despite our guidance. Does anyone from corporate want to respond to that? We had many calls and email exchanges with the manager.
Yeah, I understand that. We believe that what had happened was he spoke to you and then saw the opening policies for other states and may have gotten confused, but I'm happy to have somebody from corporate address that question for you.
He didn't appear confused at all. He seemed as if he felt as if his job was on the line if he wasn't allowed to do this. Does corporate want to respond? I don't know where they are.
Yeah. Hello, yep. This is Ned Alge. I'm the CFO of the company. So, first of all, definitely do not want to make any excuses. This is a very serious and we never wanted anything like this to happen. No one from the corporate team ever gave any direction specifically to disobey any local ordinances. My recollection of what happened during this time was, as Caroline was saying, we had mass information flow throughout the country, different jurisdictions implementing different permissions for to-go alcohol, and our belief of what happened was just that there was some confusion by the manager that we were giving some direction that we weren't actually giving.
Okay, did the manager at any point share with you the state of Massachusetts guidelines about the sale of takeout alcohol?
No, we as the corporate office was not made aware of this until we received the letter of the discussing the violation several days later.
Okay, and how many restaurants do you have nationwide in other states?
64 total restaurants.
In how many states?
We're in 20 metropolitan areas, 12 states.
Okay. Is there anyone else from your team who wishes to add anything? Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions about this incident report?
No questions at this time, thanks.
Oh, thank you.
I'd just like to add that the licensee has operated in compliance with the COVID rules from the Boston Licensing Board since the date of the incident and has made a lot of efforts to ensure that they are up to date with all Boston Licensing Board and Commonwealth of Massachusetts rules and regulations going forward.
And is this manager, Mr. Maglione, still employed?
Yes, he is.
Okay, thank you. Detective Hernandez, do you have anything else to add, or Sergeant Gallagher?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
The board will take this matter under advisement. You're calling PT Opco LLC, doing business as Pink Taco, located at 374 Congress Street. The date of the incident is July 7th, 2020. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34. Are there any additional individuals not previously sworn in who wish to testify regarding this matter? Detective, you may proceed with the police report.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. This is Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Boston Police Licensing Board. I'll be reading this report on 7/7/2020 at 10:46 p.m. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Pink Taco at 374 Congress Street. Inside the premise, detectives observed two young-looking patrons sitting at a table with mixed alcohol drinks in front of them. Thinking the two were underage, detectives approached, identified themselves as Boston Police, and requested the IDs. The young male and female hesitated at first, then informed detectives that they were only 18 years old. When asked if they were carded by Pink Taco staff, they both replied yes, and provided detectives with a fraudulent mass driver's license used to order alcohol. Detectives sought out the manager, John Boucher, and informed him of their findings. Mr. Boucher informed detectives that he would speak to staff and request ID scanners from corporate. As a result, what detectives had observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice number 023993 to the Pink Taco. For persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise, Mr. John Boucher signed for and accepted the notice. In addition, detectives will seek criminal complaints against both for minors in possession of alcohol and possession of fake IDs. Those essentially are the facts.
And these are the IDs in question.
Okay, thank you. Attorney O'Connell?
First, I think the licensee wants to, reiterate that we understand that a license is a privilege and not a right, and there's, no matter how it happens, there's really no excuse for a minor to have alcoholic beverages in their possession on licensed premises. This was seen as a very significant violation at the licensee. First of all, we are glad that the server carded. I think what I'd like to point out is it's hard to tell on Zoom, but those were, as I understand it, fairly good fraudulent IDs that needed to be scanned to determine whether or not they were real or false. That being said, the licensee has undertaken a number of steps to try to prevent behavior like this from ever happening again. First of all of the employees were retrained. PT Opco has two training programs, an internal training program and an external training program, just to ensure that they have their own internal programs not accredited and an external training program to make sure that employees are properly trained. They do retrain quarterly to make sure that everybody stays up to date. What happened after this incident was everybody was immediately retrained. In addition, new policies were put in place at the license location. Anyone who looks like they're under 30 years old is now asked for a second form of identification. And if a license looks like it's questionable, the manager is called over to inspect the license. The thinking behind that is a number of young persons who have a fraudulent ID don't necessarily have a second form of backup ID with their name on it as well. That has actually been working very well at the license location. The licensee has been turning away patrons with fraudulent or questionable IDs and no secondary form of identification since this policy was implemented. In addition, when persons are carded and they do not have the secondary form of identification or their license looks questionable, they're not allowed to stay in the premises and order food without alcoholic beverages. They are asked to leave the premises. The licensee was uncomfortable if somebody's turning in a fraudulent ID or a questionable ID, is uncomfortable that that person may try to get an alcoholic beverage from a different portion of the licensed premises. So they are just asked to leave to avoid any type of issues. Granted, they lose some revenue over that, but it's more important that no minor have access to alcoholic beverages over the revenue. The third step that they have taken is when the licensed premise is busy, The host and the hostess stand have been moved outside from the doorway, further out towards the street. The licensee has found that that way it's easier to streamline the patrons coming in, and when there's no possibility of an incident where a crowd comes in and a person is missed and not carded. So I believe the licensee has taken some fairly proactive measures to ensure that something like this would not happen again. I know the Boston Police Department discussed scanners with the manager. If the board feels that the licensee should, in addition, obtain some scanners, they are open to doing that as well.
Thank you. Sergeant or Detective, was the management cooperative?
Yes, ma'am, they were.
Okay, and could you comment on the IDs, the fake IDs?
They were a good quality ID. We told them scan is the best. It's actually a download to the phone or a tablet. It's not the big bulky thing that of the past. And that's the best way to detect these IDs. These kids were 18. I mean, they just got out of high school. They looked very young. And, you know, I think they should have probably picked it up. But once again, the scan is the best way to do it. Second form of ID, we talk to these bars all the time, and it's a credit card. Credit card, never, my idea was a form of ID. These kids, these IDs are all in their name, so the credit card's gonna have the same name, so, you know, it's gonna continue.
Yeah.
I believe one of the IDs was not in the person's name, but that being said, we were more than happy to get scanners. The thinking behind that is the licensee trains their employees to look at, touch, and feel the license, and they want to make sure that their employees stay in the habit of doing that and don't just run it through a scanner. But if for any questionable license, if we feel that an additional scanner would help prevent issues, we're more than happy to do that.
We don't mandate restaurants or licensees to have scanners. It's a risk you're taking if you're going to rely on the training of your staff, and if you're accepting a second form of ID without a picture. And as we just discussed, the scanner might be even more protection for you. That's a business decision for you to make. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your consideration.
Board will take this matter under advisement. Calling Identity Foods LLC, doing business as Pollo Centro, located at 225A Bowden Street. The date of the incident is August 18th, 2020. Premise providing outdoor entertainment on COVID-19 seating without permission. Patrons smoking hookahs on premise on patio in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Is there anyone present for the licensee?
Miguel Santana, owner and manager.
Thank you, Mr. Santana. Who from the Boston Police Department will be reading the report?
I will be.
Thank you, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify today?
Sergeant William Gallagher.
Thank you, Sergeant. Both Detective Hernandez and Sergeant Gallagher have been sworn in. Mr. Santana, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Detective, please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. On Tuesday, August 18, 2020, about 10:12 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded to Pollo Centro restaurant located at 225A Bowden Street to speak to staff regarding multiple noise complaints that had been received. While walking inside, detectives heard music emanating from the temporary outdoor back patio area. The music was going out into the streets in the abutting neighborhood. Detectives walked out to the rear patio. They heard music playing and noticed several hookahs being hurriedly carried, taken away from patrons' tables. Detectives reiterated the importance of the Governor's and Boston Licensing Board advisory on the prohibition of outdoor entertainment on the temporary COVID-19 outdoor patios, and also the prohibition of smoking hookahs on these temporary patios. Detectives then asked the person in charge, owner, Mr. Miguel Santana, if he had received a copy of these notices, and he replied he did. Mr. Santana informed detectives that the music was coming from his second floor tenants. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued license premise inspection notice 024300 for patrons observed smoking on temporary COVID-19 patio extension and premise also providing outdoor entertainment on COVID patio during COVID-19 emergency. Mr. Santana signed for and accepted the notice. Those are essentially the facts.
Thank you. Sergeant, do you have anything you wanted to add at this point?
Yes, ma'am. There was another complaint that came in from Friday night to Saturday. Sergeant Brian Dunford from the CSO's office at District 11 alerted me that he recalls that Friday night to Saturday there was again a noise complaint. I could not find an incident report or a license from this violation written, but something else came in.
Okay. Sir, could you turn, if your camera works, it would be helpful if you turned your camera on. If it doesn't, you can proceed. Do you want to respond to the incident report?
I'm trying to turn the camera on. Yeah, I can turn it on.
Okay.
So, good morning. When the detective came in, I explained to them that the music was coming from the second floor. We have several complaints of the adjacent property, which is 171 Hamilton. I received a visit from Ms. Rebecca Fu and Detective Hernandez, which they could testify that the music emits from behind the property. There's several complaints about this music. I actually myself complained to 311 about the music going on. When the detective came in on that particular night that I was issued a violation, they couldn't find any music, but they could see that the music was playing on the second floor. I'm sure they could testify to that. And there was a party going on. What happened with this property is that it's a mixed-use building. It's commercial and it's residential. So the tenants that live above the restaurant, they have access to the backyard. So what Detective Gallagher informed to me that I will be responsible for the backyard regardless of the tenants. So if they come in the backyard and they smoke hookah, I'm essentially responsible. So I explained to Sergeant Gallagher that I would take care of it and I would not allow that happen. Also, I explained to the tenants that, which I don't own the building, that they can't come in the property, and if they're gonna play the music, they will have to play the music with the door closed. And they actually complied. I received a few visits from detectives since then, and they could testify that there has not been any hookah and there has not been any music playing. And the several visits, they have issues. So I apologize for the incident. I said it wouldn't happen again. And since then, it has been taken care of.
Okay, thank you for your testimony. I just want to remind you that the use of your outside space on this temporary basis was a streamlined process through the City of Boston and the licensing board. And there was not a public process regarding entertainment or smoking. So you have a responsibility to make sure there is no smoking and there is no music on those outdoor patios. And you'll have to work with those tenants, because we've had several complaints about music coming from cars parked right out front with the windows down and coming from the apartments in the building adjacent.
May I speak?
Yes.
I understand, and I have since then tried to correct that, but the neighbors behind me, there's something that has to be done, Ms. Chairwoman. Is that the way to address you? And I apologize.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
The house behind me, and I have walked with detective and showed them the house. They have seen the music playing.
Okay.
It emits from cars. They play the music from Fridays through Thursdays, and they sit there. They play dominoes. They play cards. They barbecue. They drink, and the neighborhood start calling, and the restaurant get blamed for. And it's not fair. But and the incident report, when it happened. They noticed it happens on the second floor, as I said, and they were tenant. Since then, I have taken care of that, and as I said, it wouldn't happen again.
Okay, my advice is just to continue to monitor that situation. And have your staff continue to monitor that situation. Commissioner Saxon, Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
I don't, thanks.
I don't either. Thank you.
Okay. Sergeant, Detective, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board will take this matter under advisement. Calling Sophia's Food Enterprise Corp. doing business as La Gran Manzana, located at 22 Central Square. The date of the incident is August 19th, 2020. Premise providing half carafes of alcohol to patrons, prohibited practice in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Premise displaying hard alcohol with a malt wine and liqueur license in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Is there anyone present for the licensee?
Yes, the manager, Susie Hernandez, and the owner, Ruber Hernandez.
Could you please, if possible, turn on your video? Ms. Hernandez?
Yeah.
Thank you. Who from the Boston Police Department will be testifying?
Sergeant Detective Gallagher?
Thank you, Sergeant. Are there any individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who also wish to testify? Ms. Hernandez and Mr. Hernandez, could you please raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Sergeant, please proceed with the police report.
Yes, good morning, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Boston Police. This morning, I'll be reading a Boston Police incident report that I wrote on Wednesday, August 19th, 2020, at about 10:14 p.m. Sergeant Detective Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the licensed premise unit, responded to La Gran Manza restaurant located at 22 Central Square to speak to staff regarding the complaint that had been received. While reviewing the restaurant's license and permits, detectives made note that the establishment's common victual license was limited to beer, wine, and cordials. While walking through the bar area, detectives observed a full bottle of Sky vodka being displayed alongside flavored vodkas. As detectives walked to the restaurant, they noticed several tables were being provided half carafes of alcohol. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Ms. Ralva Hernandez. As a result, what detectives had observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a licensed premise inspection notice number 023955 for possessing distilled spirits on premise not authorized under common victuals license and from premise providing half carafes of alcohol to patrons, prohibited practices 204 CMR. Ms. Hernandez signed for and accepted the notice. Those are essentially other facts. We do have a picture of the
Thank you.
bottle of vodka. They promptly removed it from the bar once it was pointed out to them.
Okay. Thank you, Sergeant.
Well,
Mr. Hernandez, would you like to respond? Or Mrs. Hernandez?
Yes, good morning. So in regards to the Sky vodka bottle, we had just put in our order, which I have the invoice dated, and the Sedvetka flavored are the ones that we usually order. That day, we actually received a blue bottle, a Sky vodka bottle, which when the detectives arrived, it had not been opened or used. It had not yet been consumed or anything. When the staff had arrived, they automatically put all the inventory on the shelf, like we usually do on Wednesdays. When they arrived, the ones that we usually receive are these, which are all flavored. And the detectives can vouch for it. When they arrived, it was not consumed yet. As they let us know, and he was actually maybe just arriving maybe about 30 minutes prior to the detectives arriving. Robert Hernandez was aware that it wasn't flavored. When we looked at it, we read the bottle itself. It wasn't a flavored vodka, which we are aware that our license only allows liquor. So as soon as, yeah, and a matter of fact, actually, I just ordered my second, and I can email it to you, scan it to you. I just ordered my second round of liquors. And this one right here, the Stoli Raspberry, it is flavored, but that's actually something I don't even have on the shelf, which was sits as well on this order in regards to the last order as well, where I had ordered the citrus vodka and they sent me the Sky vodka. I have then contacted Horizon, which is where we get our beverages from, and I have had a discussion with them in regards to it. They didn't have much of an explanation to it, but we did remove it from the shelf, get it disposed of it properly, and we have not yet served anything that's outside of our license since then.
Okay. It would be helpful if you could email that to the licensing board, the receipt. Thank you. Can you address on the record having the half crafts on the table?
Yes. Well, this is my first year being a manager there. He has been at this location for 5 years now. We've had detectives come previously. We have had detectives come previously and plenty of times, inclusive I've seen the 2 that's on here. And we've never had that issue. The half crafts is something that we've actually had on display at the bar. Right next to our liquor, we have all the half craft bottles in display. We've never been aware or advised or even verbally told that that's something that wasn't allowed. The half craft that's shown on this picture serves 5 shots of tequila, which was served the tequila tortilla silver that we sell. It serves 5 shots of it, and it was for a table of 2 people. We did, not Detective Hernandez, but the other detective did explain to us that that's part of a bottle service that we were not initially aware of at all. As soon as he explained that to me that same day, I removed all the half crafts that we had available at the bar. We have not sold it. There's plenty of people and businesses around our area that's how we've moved, and that's how we've always sold our beverages, well, our liquor, I'm sorry. And we were just not even aware of that, because me and him have both, we've gone to other businesses as well. And if we ask for a fourth or a half, that's what we get served in. So when he made it clear that that's a bottle service and that you cannot measure how much a customer is consuming, we immediately made changes and let all of our staff know that it was no longer a service that we had available for our customers.
Okay, thank you. It is not a part of your license. And I'm glad the sergeant was able to explain that to you in person when he was there. Sergeant, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, ma'am, and she's correct. We do see that little in East Boston, that they get the half carafe and the 2 shot glasses, and we have not found it there, and we haven't found it since. So I believe them.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions for the manager?
Can you just reiterate how long the bottle was there?
How long the bottle was there? It serves 5 shots, so I would not give it.
Not the carafe, the bottle of vodka. How long was it behind your?
Actually, that day, Wednesday. I have only 1 staff in the day, and then at night, after 5 p.m., I have about six waitresses. So when they come in that shift is when they load inventory, make sure everything's stocked, make sure everything's clean and ready to go for the night. And it was yes, by the detectives, it was sealed and closed. When I opened it, it had not been consumed at all.
Thank you. Commissioner Curran, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Calling Bar Taco Fort Point LLC, doing business as Bar Taco, located at 25 Carlton Place. The date of the incident is August 29th, 2020. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 130, Section 34. Is there anyone in the licensee?
Good morning, Commissioner. Andrew Upton for the licensee. With me is Kevin Clues, the area manager, and Hector Tovar, the manager of record.
Thank you.
And who from the Boston Police Department will be reading the report into the record? Detective Hernandez, who has already been sworn in. Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher might be called.
Thank you, Sergeant. Could the two representatives from the licensee please ensure that their videos are on, and please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Detective, you may proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading a police report which I authored on Friday, July 31st, 2020. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD Licensed Premise Unit, conducted a licensed premise inspection of Bar Taco located at 25 Thompson Place in Boston. As detectives walked through the outside patio, they observed three females drinking beers and mixed alcoholic beverages. Detectives noticed these patrons appeared young. Detectives asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. One patron immediately stated that she was under 21 years of age. The other two patrons stated that they were over 21 years of age and produced valid Massachusetts driver's license stating they were over 21 years of age. Upon further investigation, it was determined that one female did have in her possession a valid Mass driver's license belonging to her sister, which she used to purchase alcohol. Detectives then determined that the female did have it in her possession, a Mass valid driver's license belonging to her cousin, which she used to purchase alcohol. The valid driver's license of the family members presented to detectives by the two patrons were confiscated. It should be noted that all three patrons stated that they used the restaurant app on their phone to order the drinks. They first stated that when the drinks arrived, they were never asked for identification by staff. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Tushar Chada. All three individuals will be summoned into court for persons under 21 in possession of alcohol. And additionally, the family members will be summoned the two female patrons will be summoned for possession of fraudulent identification. The two family members will be summoned for assisting persons under 21 in the purchase of alcohol by allowing sisters/cousins to use their driver's license. As a result of what detectives observed, Sergeant Detective Gallagher issued a license premise inspection notice 024291. The persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise mixed drinks and beers. Mr. Chada signed for and accepted the notices, and these are the licenses which they used.
Thank you, Detective. Attorney Upton?
Detective, as far as you have heard or can tell from the report, was management cooperative with the police during this incident?
Yes, I was there and they were very cooperative.
Thank you. That's all I have for the detective. I would like to say that this basically happened because they were trying to find an appropriate balance between social distancing in the beginning of reopening and the in-person interactions required for safe service. They have an ordering app that's called Dragonfly that's supposed to reduce contact between the patrons and the servers. But because, or in spite of this, they reduced the amount of interaction between the server and the patrons ordering alcohol, and the server did not ask for an ID. This is directly contrary to a written, signed, and acknowledged policy of the company, which says that when the drinks come to the table, you've got to ask for the ID. And it says specifically, if they don't supply the ID, you're supposed to take the drinks back and dump them in the sink. So for one reason or another, the server failed to do this. I can tell you that the server has been disciplined with a disciplinary letter in his file due to the pandemic and the economic consequences. They don't fire people for a first offense, but he's on notice that he's going to be fired for a second offense. As a result, the managers then did an in-person training with their server guidelines for every server. They have an internal training program that was reviewed, as well as the aspects of the incident that were reviewed, what went wrong, what can be done to prevent it. They were going to raise their carding age from 40 to 50, but because of the incident and attention from management, they decided to now decide to card everyone who appears, regardless of age. They're also going to resume the bar's private compliance check. They've been on a regular course with the bars program prior to the pandemic, but ceased them temporarily, and now they're set to resume during October. And they haven't told anyone at the restaurant, so they won't know that these compliance checks are coming. As I said, they didn't fire the staff member. but they did have him attend the training and take an online tips course. And they have reminded everyone that while the Dragonfly app is helpful in the pandemic world of serving, it's not an excuse to ignore the problems. That being said, I'd like to turn it over to Kevin Clues, the area director, who would like to make a brief statement.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. I just want to state that we do take this very, very, very seriously, and we're very sorry that this happened. Although we have a good compliance policy in place, we did take immediate action on this, and going forward, I think that we are in a stronger position to make sure that this never ever happens again.
Thank you, Kevin. That's all we have. We're glad to answer any questions.
I just have one question. This Dragonfly app, is that the scanner app or a new scanner app?
It's an online ordering.
Oh, online ordering. Okay.
Yeah, it's not an ID checker. It's a
Okay.
thing where people can order, and that generates the service of the drinks. And then when they come, the people are supposed to put their ID on the table, according to our written policy. These women did not do that. The server then failed to ask and failed to confiscate the drinks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
I don't.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The board will take this matter under advisement. Items 6, 7, and 8 are all for the same licensee and will each be handled individually. As a reminder, the only individuals who can testify are those individuals with personal knowledge of the alleged incident. At this time, the board will not be accepting testimony about any prior licensee at this location, any agreement between the licensee and a neighborhood association, or any other information other than personal knowledge of the alleged incident on the specific date. Any individuals who wish to provide additional information to the board who do not fall into that category may do so in writing. Calling Nusret Boston LLC, doing business as Nusret Steakhouse, located at 100 Arlington Street. The date of the incident is the date of the incident is September 18th, 2020. Premise failing to follow governor's advisory no line in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64. Are there any individuals present on behalf of the licensee?
Morning, Executive Secretary, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. With me this morning, excuse me, Ali Avsi, who is the manager of record, and Mr. Soyturk, who is the corporate representative. I did have a procedural matter I would like to address before we begin. It references more particularly some of the others to follow. May I just state, I have a general objection which I'd like to state on the record and preserve our rights with regard to the notice, specifically regarding notice of the third of the hearings which we received on a revised hearing list yesterday at 11:51 a.m., which would be less than 24 hours until this morning's hearing. With regard to that hearing in particular, the September 26th, and a strenuous objection to the boards having suspended the license without the benefit of notice or a hearing in this regard. We find ourselves therefore in a position where any appellate rights which we may have already, we don't have a statement of reasons, we don't have a decision yet, we've had a suspension of the license. And I must strenuously object to that circumstance in this regard. Obviously, these are serious matters. That's a very serious punishment. And again, we received absolutely no notice or the ability to be heard before that action was taken by the board. And we object to it.
Thank you, Attorney Quilty. Your objection is noted, and when we do address the third item, When it is read into the record, it will be noted that that was an action by both the board and the Inspectional Services Department, and it was necessary to protect the ongoing public health and safety, and we can address that.
I may just add, with regard to the Inspectional Services Department, notices of violation, of which I believe there are 2. Each of those is also subject to appeal by the licensee, and we are not even 10% of the way into our appellate period, yet we are closed. Again, I just have to object to the action being taken without any opportunity to be heard.
Thank you. Thank you. We were, the board felt this was necessary action due to the strain on the city resources to responding to calls of lack of social distancing repeatedly since this restaurant was open. So I respect the fact that you're reserving your rights, and we'll continue with the hearing.
Thank you, ma'am.
From the Boston Police Department, we'll be reading the first item into the record, Detective Hernandez. Are there any other individuals, again, with personal knowledge of this first alleged incident who wish to testify?
I would like to testify.
Please state your name, your address, any affiliation, and specifically the date and time on which you have personal knowledge of this incident.
Sarah Herlihy, 54 Piedmont Street. I have personal knowledge on September 18th and then every night the week thereafter through Thursday night. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Thank you. And again, the testimony will be limited to this specific incident. Any additional information? Correct.
Just the lines or?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to testify on the masks as well then.
And
have to do it all at once, but.
Any additional information you wish to submit to the board, you can do so in writing. Are there any individuals, again, with personal knowledge of this specific alleged incident?
Hi, yes, Brian Mauvert.
And please state your address and the date and time on which you had personal knowledge of this specific alleged incident.
Sure, I can. I'm at 54 Piedmont. I'm right behind the building, and I can testify to Wednesday, the 22nd.
Okay, this is about the September 18th.
It's about lines, is it not?
But this is about the September 18th alleged violation. We can only accept testimony regarding this specific date.
Okay, I saw that as well, so I can testify on the 18th as well.
Okay, your testimony will be limited to that.
Okay, fine, thank you.
And I believe Ms. Morrisroe?
Yeah, Nancy Morrisroe, 24 Melrose Street.
And again, you have personal knowledge of this alleged incident.
I do, on the 18th, Friday the 18th, yes.
Thank you.
Just for the record, this is actually Saturday, September the 19th.
Ma'am, do you have, thank you, Detective, do you have personal knowledge of Saturday the 19th?
Yes.
Are there any other individuals with personal knowledge? Sir, I see you raising your hand. Again, please, Mr. Coyle, state your name, your address, and confirm that you have personal knowledge of this specific date and this specific alleged incident.
Sure. Steve Coyle, live at 100 Arlington Street. Walked past the line a number of times and have a lot of information from what happened.
We just want to get names and addresses right now and see which testimony is relevant to which incident.
Thank you. Is there any other individuals, again, with personal knowledge of this specific incident? All individuals, including those representatives from the licensee who wish to testify regarding this specific incident, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You do.
Ms. Herlihy, I'm sorry, could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. Detective, you may proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'll be reading a police report, which I authored. On Saturday, September 19th, 2020, at about 8:45 p.m., Detective Hernandez, assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit, responded to an intercept located at 100 Arlington Street to speak to staff regarding a complaint stating that the establishment was not following COVID guidelines, no lines. While walking up to the restaurant, Detective observed that there was a very long line of patrons in front of the establishment. Detective also noticed that everyone in line was much closer than 6 feet apart Detectives reiterated the importance of the Governor's and Boston Licensing Board advisory on there being no lines to be formed in front of establishments. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. Al Avci. Staff stated that they would bring the premise into compliance. As a result, what Detective observed, Detective Hernandez issued license premise inspection notice 023958 for premise having a line of patrons in violation of Governor's directive. Mr. Avci signed for and accepted the notice. That is all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
May I inquire, Madam Chair? May I inquire?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Detective, just a housekeeping matter. The notice of today's hearing as well as the citation suggests September 18th, and that was a Friday. Yet the body of the report says Saturday, September 19th. Which day was it?
Like I said, sir, and I corrected everybody, it was Saturday, September 19th.
Do acknowledge that all of your other, the notice and your inspection report suggest the 18th.
The 19th, sir.
Well, I don't know whether I have the right report then, because the report I'm reading says 9/18 twice, and it's yours. Whatever it is, it is.
I think we might have a
it's
clerical
confusing.
error, Attorney Quilty.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And Detective, just to be certain as to the nature of this incident, the sole complaint being raised by your report and the notice of today's hearing is failure to follow Governor's advisory, no line. Is that correct?
Sure.
Sorry?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. And just referencing back to your inspection notice, at the bottom of the page, of course, there's the box that owner, manager, PIC cooperate with police, and the box is checked yes. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And so that would be Mr. Avci, who's the manager of record, reference in your report?
Yes, sir.
And did he cooperate with you personally?
Fully.
And did he go outside himself to deal with the people in line as to your observations?
Yes, he attempted to try to bring the line into compliance, but it never really happened. Even when I left, it was still like a mess.
He was out there himself talking to people, asking people to move. I don't know whether you heard any of this, but did you see him attempting to deal with the people online?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Let me just see. I have no further questions for the detective. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add, Attorney Quilty, before I ask a couple of questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to let some of these other individuals speak. I would simply like to state on behalf of the licensee, and Mr. Avci is here, as is Mr. Soyturk, who's a corporate representative. Mr. Avci would testify that he was outside, did go to the line, brought staff members with him to ask people to cooperate, to leave if they didn't have reservations and the like. The incident in question occurred on literally the first night they were open for business. I think if it was the Friday, and again, I'm sorry to, it's just a little bit confusing, but their first day of business whatsoever was that Friday night, the 18th. They were overwhelmed, unfortunately, lots of people without reservations. And it was a situation that Mr. Avci did deal with. This was relatively early in the evening. It was 8:35, it appears, thereabouts. And again, they literally were swamped with people, as the board is well aware, and it's no excuse, but the chef is a well-known internet personality, if you will, and we were just overloaded with people attracted to that event, if you will, and every attempt was made to move people, to ask them to go elsewhere. If they didn't have a reservation, to leave, explaining that the place was booked, etc. And Mr. Avci is here with us and can answer any further questions, but he was the one out there. He did cooperate with the police, and they did everything possible to move people away and make the line as orderly as possible. Mr. Avsi, are you present? You are somewhere here.
Yes, I am.
There he is. I'm sorry. Were you indeed, did you cooperate with the detectives that night?
Yes, I did.
Did you go outside and interact with people on the line?
Yes, I did, and it's not just myself. Also, I designated 3 additional people. The assistant GM was outside, as well as 2 hostesses.
And what did those people, what did you direct your staff to do, and what did you observe them do?
I direct them to talk to the guests and basically make them leave the property because we didn't have any seats, and these guests were walk-ins. They were on reservations, and they just come by to actually dine with us, but we didn't have enough seats. So we tell all the guests to move and leave the property.
Did people comply with your requests?
Yes, they did. Most of them did, but Detective Hernandez was there too, and actually he was there for the following day as well. And he even saw, and the second day he told me personally that, I mean, we did a good job because, I mean, people were just coming in without a reservation. So we keep telling them that unfortunately they cannot wait here, and they can call and make a reservation at another date, another time.
And at some physically, at some point, the area in front of your restaurant is a public sidewalk. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Thank you, sir. And you said you had yourself and 4 or 5 other staffers out there doing these?
With myself, total of 4 people.
Thank you, sir. The board may have some questions.
I apologize, Attorney Quilty. The Zoom format is still difficult to get used to. We should probably go to the witnesses first who wish to testify, and then I'll jump back in with a couple of questions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Again, as a reminder, the testimony will be limited to the alleged incident at the date and time at hand. Any additional testimony will not be permitted. If you have additional concerns or information you would like submitted to the board, you can do so in writing. For the purposes of today's hearing, please limit your testimony as I've previously described. And I will call the individuals who stated they have personal knowledge and wish to testify in the order in which they were sworn in, beginning with Ms. Herlihy. Oh, ma'am, you're on mute. We can't hear you. We can return to Ms. Herlihy. And we'll come back to you, ma'am. We still can't hear you. Calling Brian Boyce. I apologize, Boyceford.
It's fine. Bovair. Yeah, it's close enough. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much I have to add versus what the officer witnessed. I witnessed the same thing. I mean, especially opening weekend as a neighbor. We were seeing all kinds of issues, so I was definitely paying attention. Kind of walking the dog around the area. Calling this a line is a misnomer. I mean, it was the entire sidewalk was just jam packed with people, taking selfies and gathering and just chatting and whatnot. To what degree it had to do with patrons waiting for the restaurant, I'm not sure, but I mean, it was chaos. It was absolute chaos in front of that whole weekend, frankly.
Thank you, sir. Nancy Morrisroe?
Yes. I'm just going to go on that what just Brian said. Starting around maybe 6 o'clock, 6:30 on Saturday night, my daughter came home, my 16-year-old, and said, Salt Bay is out in front of the restaurant taking selfies with everybody. So I thought, oh, okay, interesting. I don't know if that's not encouraging people to gather. And then sitting in my house, and we're 2 streets over from the restaurant, I heard cheering every 5 minutes or so. So I decided to take a walk over there, and I saw, again, the chef come out every so often to encourage all the bevy of ladies coming around to take pictures and selfies with him. So to say that they were trying not to encourage people from gathering, I find that hard to believe, since it was going on most of the evening until about, I think the police came around 8:30, 8:45 to break up the line. And then I came back out around 9, and there were still people gathering, not as many as there were earlier in the evening. The restaurant was packed. The tables are 6 feet apart, people milling about. So I'm not quite sure how they were trying to stop people from gathering, because I didn't see it.
Thank you very much. Calling Steve Coyle. Mr. Coyle?
Yes, I observed several times that I walked my dog probably around 7 o'clock in the evening. Line was starting to form. Like Miss Morris Rowe saw Salt Bay come out a number of times. Went to dinner at the South End, left my apartment probably around 8:30. There was a very long line. Came back probably around 10:30. The line was still very long. I saw no one come out from inside either time I was there, nor did they try to control the line. In fact, there was a large group even inside that spilled into the long outside line. Walked my dog last probably at 12:30. The line then was shorter, but there was still a line outside at 12:30 p.m. or a.m. rather. And inside it was pandemonium. There were tables of 15 people.
Thank you very much. Returning to Miss Herlihy. And unfortunately, we cannot hear you, but you can also submit any.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, it must have been my speakers. I apologize. I won't belabor it. I observed the same thing as the other 3 witnesses. I live directly behind the building. We walk our dog. It was pandemonium on the sidewalk. I saw staff coming out to assist people. I didn't see any staff coming out to attempt to limit the line. So it was, and as Ms. Morriser said, it was, the behavior seemed to be encouraged by the staff versus controlled by the staff.
Thank you very much. Are there any individuals not previously called with personal knowledge of this alleged incident who wish to testify? And I will now turn this back to Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us today. Attorney Quilty, I just want to make sure the licensee understands their responsibilities as they relate to the governor's COVID-19 guidance and the board's advisory. They do have to make efforts to control the lines outside. I understand there's a public sidewalk, but right in front of their restaurant, they are responsible for the lines and maintaining social distancing with maybe markers or masks.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they understand that. I know the detective and the sergeant explained it that evening. I understand this was an opening night, and it was the first week of this restaurant opening, and Salt Bay himself was there, perhaps drawing a crowd. But could you explain to the board what the reservation system is, and why, if there was a crowd outside and they were sold out that night, I'm guessing, why there wasn't more done to disperse them on this particular evening?
As the board, I'm sure, is aware, I personally wasn't there, but Mr. Avsi was, and I would look to him to answer that question. I think he did just testify earlier that he and additional staffers were outside working the line, if you will. So, Mr. Avsi, you've heard the concerns raised by the individuals from the neighborhood and the questions of the chairwoman with regard to the reservation system and the line. Can you please respond?
Sure. I mean, first of all, I would like to apologize on behalf of my team and the Nusret group, of course, for the disturbance that happened the past 6 or 7 days. We assure you that we already took immediate action to correct all these issues. We are working with our local teams, not only for this particular time, but also for the long-term basis to make sure that we comply all the rules and regulations of the city and our neighborhood, of course. The reservation system that we use is the 7-room. It's online based, and we blocked all the reservations. So we were taking limited reservations all these nights, and this was a soft opening. normal circumstances. We did not advertise anywhere. We did not advertise on TV or on newspapers. It was the COVID era. We absolutely understand that. So that's why this was going to be a soft opening. So there was no PR involved. But once we open the doors, once we start to get reservations through the 7 rooms, this is the open table base. We stopped actually blocking the reservations, but people started to come in just as walk-in. And then once we started the crowds, my team started to tell all these guests that we cannot accommodate them. As I mentioned, 4 people were outside, and we were keep telling the guests that unfortunately we cannot take you in. Please make the reservation again. And even across the street, the restaurant across the street, actually the managers came and they said that thank you for doing that, because they actually got the business. Basically, those people removed from the property and they went to the other restaurants around the neighborhood. But answering your questions, we used the open table and we blocked all the reservations. We limited all the reservations that day, and basically the whole week.
Okay, and could you tell me how many staff on a regular Friday or Saturday night you would have, and did you have additional staff that night, or do you plan on having additional staff, especially while the restaurant is new and the crowds may still gather?
Yes, we have additional staff. So far, our staff is we have 90 people working right now.
Okay.
In our payroll. So on the weekends, that particular those days, actually, we had front of the house 40 staff member just for the front of the house, and about 25 people at the back of the house.
Okay, and I understand sometimes these crowds are things that you can't predict, the size and the number of them, but I think there is an additional responsibility during COVID to put extra resources in place to take those things into consideration, especially in a neighborhood like this where neighbors perhaps are walking by and are frightened by seeing these lines and people without masks.
I agree 100%. And with the signs, normally on the ground, there are stickers, and not only 6 feet, we actually did 12 feet.
Okay.
Every 12 feet, there are stickers on the ground.
Okay.
May I just interject one thing? There's in addition, there will be an updated security and operations plan which Mr. Avsi and his team have worked on, which will be provided, and as well he has responded to emails from various members of the neighborhood association, and they've suggested to him to reach out to meet with them to go over these new security plans, which he has been corresponding back and forth over the last couple of days. The meeting hasn't happened yet, but we have responded that we would like to provide a new security plan and then give it to them, and then the association may choose to meet. We'd love to do that if they're willing to do that.
Mr. Avsi or Mr. Quilty, could we get even a draft copy of the security and operations plan before we vote on Thursday?
Yes, ma'am. We intended, of course, to finish today's hearing and then provide it to you. We'll have it to you today.
Okay. And I would just suggest making sure the staff, your staff understands that plan and the overall state guidelines and our own advisories.
Yes, ma'am. They've indeed had 2 training sessions over the last 48 hours, one for management and one for the rest of the staff, to go over all of the new operational procedures, et cetera. So we have made it very clear to staff what we need to do and what we expect them to do, and we will adhere to those things going forward.
Thank you. Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran, do you have any questions?
So were the tables set apart, 6 feet apart at the beginning of the night?
Yes. Absolutely. And we actually literally use the measuring tape actually to make sure, and it's not from table to table, it's from chair to chair, because tables are, they're standing still, but the chairs are moving. So not from the table to table, we actually took the measurement from chair to chair.
And were they maintained throughout the whole night?
That is correct. And there were some groups, let's say group of 8. So what we did was we put 6 people in one table and additional 6 feet apart on the next table. Or if there were no tables next to each other, we actually only situate the 6 people and situate the rest of the people to another table.
And what was your capacity?
181.
And did you have doormen who maintained that capacity?
That is correct. Yes, we our hostesses. Any given night we have 4 hostesses. So two hostesses actually outside, right on that vestibule we have, and the 2 hostesses are inside. The two hostesses that are in the vestibule, they open the door, they welcome the guest, and then they send it to the inside the other 2 hostesses for to be seated.
And how did you maintain the count? Did you have a clicker?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How did you maintain the count? Did you have a clicker or some?
We the system that we use on Open Table records all the seatings and all the reservations. So everything is on from the iPad.
So did you allow anyone in on the premises who did not make a reservation?
We did not allow, no. And the bar area also, we have about 40, in normal circumstances, we have about 40 seats at the bar. So we actually remove all the seats from the bar. We rented a public storage area, and we are storing our bar stools over there, and we put signs on the counter so no one was near the bar.
Mr. Opsy?
Yes, sir.
Regarding, you noted that you didn't advertise on TV or radio.
That is correct, sir. Yes.
Did you put it out on social media?
I did not put it on the social media.
Did anyone associated with your restaurant put out the opening on social media?
Mr. Nusret did it on the opening date, not before.
Okay, and can you tell me on what day you were all booked up for that night, Saturday night?
Actually, we booked out pretty much every night last week. So we blocked all the reservations. We kept all the reservations. We did not take additional reservations at all on pretty much from the day that we opened up until Friday.
So you're saying the week before you opened, you were fully booked?
No, actually that day, because the 7-room got updated that day, the opening date.
With regard to the Saturday?
Yes.
When were you fully booked for Saturday?
For the past Saturday?
For the 19th, I'm sorry.
For the 19th. Actually, we completely booked on that Saturday. We still had enough tables, available tables, but we actually Saturday morning we were booked that day.
So by Saturday morning you were fully booked?
That is correct, sir. Yes.
Okay, and were any social media posts made after your full booking?
I don't recall, sir. I don't know.
Okay, can you find that out for us?
Sure, of course.
Because I mean, what I'm trying to get at is, were you soliciting more people to come after you were fully booked?
I will find it out, of course. Sure, sir.
That's all.
Madam Chair, may I just make a comment on this topic? We do not want to, we cannot hide from the fact that the chef is an international celebrity. There's no question that the chef has a wide following around the world on his social media platform. This was opening night. This was opening week. As I understand it, the chef is only here for a brief period of time. He may already have gone. I think he has. But, you know, he comes for these opening events, and unfortunately, he's that popular, and there were postings. I am certain of it. I think the board has records of some of these as well. So we cannot tell you that it didn't happen. I wish I could tell you it didn't happen, but it happened. He's that popular, and people came out to see him and have pictures, etc. It was a perfect storm, if you will, of his celebrity causing, I think, a lot of this traffic outside.
Attorney Quilty, you answered my last question.
My hope is that beyond these opening events, you will never see circumstances like this again.
Okay, thank you. And that was my last question to either you or someone on the team. Is Saltface still in town? It sounds like it's his presence that draws the crowd when he opens up the doors and waves to his fans. Is he in town, and for how much longer?
Mr. Absi, Mr. Soiter?
He's in town. Of course, he's very, very upset with all these situations, of course, and I can assure you that for the past 3 days he has not slept 1 hour. Because I'm with him, I didn't sleep for 1 hour.
No, I appreciate the seriousness that you're taking this, and that's just what I wanted to emphasize. If he is still going to be at the restaurant, I would suggest you get some extra security to control the lines.
Absolutely, we will get the extra security. We are working on that right now. We are hiring, security personnel for the front door. He is here. He's still in Boston.
Okay.
And of course, he's gonna leave soon. He needs to go to the other properties. And once we open and running, we have 21 restaurants. So what's gonna happen is probably we'll see him 6 months, because each restaurant, if he stays 2 weeks, by the time he gets to where we are, it'll be 6 months. So
okay.
Yes, we will not see him that often. Absolutely not. And if we do the math, that's not possible.
Okay, I would just put those extra measures in place in your security and operations plans for the dates and the times that he is planning on being in Boston.
Absolutely will do.
Okay, I don't have any.
Address the board? May
Sure.
I address the board? My name is Ufuk Çocuk. I'm the corporate representative. I want to start by apologizing our neighbors. We deeply apologize for all the disturbance that we have caused inadvertently without any intent. What I would like to say is that we take COVID measures very, very seriously, and immediately after the incident on Friday, we started taking actions. On Saturday, we started implementing new measures. By the end of the week, the measures that we have taken have been successful, and basically we solved the line issue a couple of days after we opened. Albeit that this is through a training of our staff and through other measures. I think that this issue was in our perspective solved in our comprehensive plan, and you are going to see the measures that we have taken. I believe that our safety and security plan is comprehensive. Thank you.
And we're looking forward to working with you and your staff. I have no further questions, so we can move on.
We'll take this first matter under advisement. We will call the next matter. Calling Newsret Boston LLC, doing business as Newsret Steakhouse, located at 100 Arlington Street. The date of the incident is September 23rd, 2020. 2 blocked fire exits in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 64, in Board's Rule 1.06a. In order to respect everyone's time who is present, on behalf of the board, we ask that we do not receive duplicative testimony. Are there any individuals who wish to testify on this matter, either for the licensee or with personal knowledge of this incident, who are not, this specific incident, who are not previously sworn in? With that, we can proceed with the police report.
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, I'll be reading this one. On Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020 at 8:32 p.m., Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to licensed premise unit, along with IESD Health Inspector Prendergast, responded to Newsret located at 100 Arlington Street to speak to staff regarding a complaint. Complaint stated that the establishment was not following COVID guidelines. While walking up to the restaurant, detectives observed there was a line in front of the establishment. Detectives also noticed that not everyone in line was closer than 6 feet apart. Detectives brought this to attention of the person in charge, Mr. Vici. Staff stated the line was due to multiple reservations coming in at the same time. Mr. Vici stated that he would bring the premise into compliance. Detectives reiterated the importance of the Governor and Boston Licensing Board advisory on there being no lines to be formed in front of establishments. As detectives walked through the restaurant to make sure the fire exits were unobstructed, they observed a front fire exit blocked by a table and chairs, and the rear kitchen exit to be blocked by trash and cases of water. As a result, detectives had observed Sergeant Detective Gallagher issue a license premise inspection notice number 024076 for premise having 2 blocked emergency exits. Mr. Vici signed for and accepted the notice. By the time we were done with our inspection, the fire exits had been cleared and were satisfactory. Those are essentially other facts.
Thank you, Sergeant.
You're welcome.
Before we ask Attorney Quilty and the representatives for the licensee, are there any individuals with personal knowledge specifically regarding this alleged violation, which is the blocked fire exits, who wish to testify? Seeing no individuals, Attorney Quilty.
Thank you, ma'am. I just, Detective Sergeant, your the violation 024076 indeed cites, as does the notice of today's hearing, the 2 blocked fire exits, and that is the only citation. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And on your inspection notice, the again cooperation, did manager cooperators check yes? Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
And was it Mr. Absi again who you interacted with?
It was.
And he cooperated with you in this regard?
He did.
And if I may just reference, I know with this notice came 3 photos that I'm aware of. I have a photo of a line out front, and I have a photo of an exit with a table in the immediate area, and then a photo of what appears to be a kitchen.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. And can I just with regard to the photos of the kitchen and the restaurant, the blockage in the first the photo that I have first is a table with 2 individuals seated at it?
It is, sir.
And that table, was that, in your opinion, a movable object?
Movable, yes, yeah.
So that table could have been picked up and moved farther away from that door?
They did, prior to us leaving, the table was moved.
And they did, okay. And same with regard to the, and again, I mean, the photo may not do justice, but the photo of the kitchen area, it appears that there's 1 door with a push bar, and
Correct,
it appears the other side is stationary, and the area in front of the push bar, according to the photo, appears to be open. I mean, it certainly could be more open, but it certainly, there appears to be a path that one could get through that door. Is that not
Yes, sir.
the case?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
you'd have to walk around that other stuff, but you could get out.
But the bag of what appears to be a bag of paper trash, and then some a floor washing bucket, those things were moved out of the way, were they?
Yes, they were.
Okay. And again, Mr. Obsi and his staff cooperated with you.
They did.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions. Ma'am, would you, I mean, again, I think you've heard from the detective, these items were moved out of the way immediately. Mr. Obsi, do you have anything to add to this? You interacted with the detectives that night?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do and suggest, or what happened with regard to when they arrived? What did you do, and what steps did you take?
Immediately remove the table in front of the dining room, and also went to the kitchen and talked to the chef and cleared that area. And this is the photo at the moment. This is what it will look like from now on. This one is the front of the house, the emergency exit, and it's cleared. And this one is it's going to exactly look like that. This is the back kitchen exit. It will look like that from now on.
Thank you, sir. The board may have some questions for you.
I have no questions. Thank you. Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon?
No, thank you.
The board will take this matter under advisement. Calling Newsret Boston LLC, doing business as Newsret Steakhouse, located at 100 Arlington Street. The date of the incident is September 26, 2020. The licensee was ordered by the licensing board for the city of Boston and the Inspectional Services Department to immediately cease operations, and the CV 7-day all alcoholic beverages license was indefinitely suspended due to the existing and imminent threat to public health and public safety resulting from the ongoing and repeated failure to adhere to COVID-19 public safety standards. The licensee was already scheduled for 2 hearings before the board this morning, at which time this emergency hearing was added to the agenda and the licensee was notified. Are there any individuals, either on the behalf of the licensee or who have personal knowledge of the incident at this date and time, who wish to testify who are not previously sworn in?
Leslie, this is Daniel Prendergast, Inspectional Services. I'll be providing testimony on behalf of one of our health inspectors.
Thank you, Daniel. Could you please raise your right hand?
Yes,
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. We will begin with the police report, after which Mr. Prendergast can read the Inspectional Services report into the record as well.
Good morning. I'll be reading here from police report that Sergeant Detective Gallagher wrote. On 9/26/2020 at about 12:45 p.m., Lieutenant Detective Adrian Choi, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, and Curran conducted a licensed premise inspection of the restaurant Newsret at 100 Arlington Street. The inspection came about because of multiple complaints of the premise failing to adhere to the governor and Boston Licensing Board's advisory on COVID-19 guidelines. Social media postings by the premise from the evening before 9/25/2020 at 11:45 p.m. show premise and patrons and employees not wearing face coverings, tables of more than 6, and no social distancing. Inside the premise, detectives and Health Inspector Curran spoke to manager Mr. Soyturk and informed him that the licensee is ordered by the licensing board for the city of Boston Inspectional Services to immediately cease operations, in the CV 7-day all alcohol beverage license is indefinitely suspended due to the existing and imminent threat to public health and public safety resulting from the ongoing repeated failure to adhere to the COVID-19 public safety standards. Detectives removed the liquor license from the premise and posted signs alerting the public of the closure. Mr. Soyturk signed for and accepted the notice. Inspector Curran also did cite and fine the premise for failure to adhere to COVID-19 guidelines. That is all.
May I inquire, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Excuse me. Thank you, Detective. I'm sorry. Your report indicates that this was about midday, was it not, on the Saturday?
Yes, sir.
The afternoon?
Yes, sir.
And in the body of your report, you indicate that you were there on that day because of previous complaints and social media postings from the night before. So
yes, sir.
You have no personal knowledge of what happened the night before? You weren't there the night before?
No, sir. Like I stated, it was from social media postings.
And so you arrived there, obviously there was nothing to see at 1:15 in the afternoon. So you basically were there to inform them that their license was being suspended.
Yes, sir.
And again, Madam Chair, I just want to reiterate the licensee's objection to the suspension, the failure of notice, and the ability to be heard on that matter. So I just want to make clear, on this visit where the license was suspended, there was nothing that you observed that was a violation.
And I'm sorry, Attorney Quilty, before we continue, I would just ask Mr. Prendergast to read his report into the record.
But can I just finish with the police officer? We had his report first, I thought.
Sure.
So can you just Can you tell me that, sir? When you arrived at 1:15 in the afternoon on the Saturday, you observed no violations?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And ma'am, you wanted to go to Mr. Prendergast?
Mr. Prendergast?
Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Daniel Prendergast, Principal Health Inspector, Inspectional Services, City of Boston. I'm going to be providing testimony that was authored by Inspector Thomas Curran. On 9/26/2020 at approximately 1 p.m., Inspector Curran arrived on the scene at Nazareth Restaurant, 100 Arlington Street. He was called out to the location for reports of multiple COVID-19 violations at this establishment. He was requested, an inspector was requested to accompany the licensing board officials at this establishment. Upon his arrival, Inspector Curran issued a COVID-19 violation with a $300 fine for failure to adhere to COVID-19 protocol and guideline. At that time, he observed, failure to comply with social and physical distancing protocols, DPH guidelines, jeopardizing worker and customer safety. There have been multiple COVID-19 violations and complaints fielded by multiple city agencies against this establishment. A $300 fine issued payable to the City of Boston. The establishment was closed by licensing board on site at time of inspection. That concludes my testimony at this time.
Madam Chair, may I inquire of Mr. Prendergast?
Please go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, and I understand this, you're reading Inspector Curran's report, is that correct?
That is correct.
And so you have no personal knowledge of this incident?
I personally was not there.
And you did hear Detective Hernandez suggest that when they arrived on that day and time, there was no violation observed?
I've heard the testimony that was presented by all.
Thank you, sir. And with regard to the City of Boston Health Code non-criminal violation notice, it suggests that the order to abate same through the remedy and within time prescribed is provided. And I'm reading directly from that document, immediately cease business operations and clean and sanitize affected areas.
Mm-hmm.
So that appears to have been the methodology of abatement. Did you note, well, you weren't there, but I mean, presumably the operation was, clean and sanitized since there was nobody there. Have you been back, or has anybody been back to make sure that they had complied with that order?
Yeah, so again, I personally was not on site at the time, so I really can't speak to any possible remedy or anything on that particular day. Therefore I don't have a that wasn't there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I have no further questions for these individuals. Thank you, ma'am. Would you like to hear from I presume it was Mr. Afsi again who?
Let me just confirm whether or not there are any individuals with personal knowledge who wish to testify.
Yes, ma'am.
I can testify.
Mr. Coyle?
Yes. So on the evening, the Friday evening, I believe it was the 25th, I observed tables of 12, 15 people.
Madam Chair, I'm going to object to this testimony. It's not the four corners of this violation notice. It's a day earlier. There's no violation from the day earlier.
I'm going to jump in here, Attorney Quilty. The team was sent down to remove the liquor license in response to the repeated complaints that this board and ISD received. And if Mr. Coyle was observing the complaints from the Friday night before, I'm interested in hearing what he has to say.
Thank you.
Just please note my objection. Thank you.
Objection noted.
Thank you. I did not call the police, so evidently they came on the Saturday. I also observed liquor bottles on tables with the spouts in the liquor bottles, people doing shots. I observed Salt Bay with and without a mask at tables. And I actually did observe, I didn't realize that where the table was, but there was a table by the fire exit on the Arlington Street side.
Thank you. All I'm going to add is that we are living in very strange times. We're living under different guidelines from the state and from the city. And I appreciate the fact that the restaurant is doing their best to understand what those guidelines are and to implement them. But this has been a complete drain on some of our resources. And this is why we have been working with the management and working with your team to correct those violations. It's been about 2 weeks of us having to respond to neighborhood complaints and complaints that came in to various city departments. So that is why the team went down on Saturday. I think when there's a public health crisis, there's often a different set of rules that have to be applied. So Commissioner Curran or Commissioner Saxon, do you have any questions?
No additional questions.
Neither do I. Thank you.
Okay, and the only reason why we are working diligently on this is because of the public health crisis. It is not about, social media and what we're seeing on that, but when we're hearing really egregious, serious complaints of public health violations, it's our responsibility to address them.
The licensee, and I certainly understand your responsibilities, and we take our part of that very seriously and understand fully, that you've dealt with issues around this opening. We're just very apologetic and want to make sure that we work cooperatively with the board, with the police department, with ISD. And the hope and desire is that once the cause celeb, if you will, of Salt Bay being here for the opening events is over and done with, normal activities may resume, of course, if the board allows it. So I think Mr. Soyturk, if we could just take a moment, he wanted to just make a final statement on behalf of the corporate entity. If you would allow him to do that, I'd appreciate it. Is that okay?
Sure, please.
Soyturk? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to address the board and our neighbors. I didn't want to make our company's debut like this in this format. We take COVID measures, rules and regulations very seriously, and safety comes first. We are not making any excuses. We should have done a better job to be in compliance with the safety and security rules with the city and the state. We are new to the city. This is our first restaurant in the city and this region. This restaurant was our first opening since the beginning of COVID. Different COVID regulations in different parts of the country. It is challenging, but we are not making any excuses. Since the first report of the violations, we have been working with local experts, organizations to find the best safety and security measures to address these violations. We are a global professional hospitality company, and our whole focus is successfully executing our safety and security plan once we open. We have the knowledge, experience, and expertise to execute this plan, which we are going to submit per your review. So far, we have been successful in fixing the violations associated with the no-line rule and the emergency exit. The police, in their follow-up visits, noted and acknowledged that no-line violation was no longer present. We strongly believe that our plan is very comprehensive, detailed, and we will successfully do the implementation. We already started implementing many items in this plan, including detailed trainings to our staff. We also started an outreach program to our neighbors and to the community to be a reliable member to the city and our community. we will be a model fine dining establishment and an excellent neighbor. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everyone that we are here to help you. My staff is here to help you. The team, the licensed premise unit team is here to help you. ISD is here to help you. So if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out and we'll work with you on your safety and operations plan. We want to help you operate safely and successfully.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The board will take this matter under advisement and vote on it during tomorrow's voting hearing. Thank you all for taking the time to attend today's hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.